other.
There we go.
Got it. Okay, so I am Lauren. I am based in Washington, D.C., originally from Buffalo. Go Bills. And so I've been through this. I was a developer for TCL 10. So I actually went to college for bassoon to be an orchestral musician. And then eventually I also did a math degree, but ended up tutoring math and doing like freelance bassoon stuff. And while I really liked that, it just wasn't the lifestyle I wanted forever. So I took a while to think about what I really cared about with both of those things. And my dad, who was a software engineer before he retired, suggested I look at coding. So I just kind of took a leap of faith, went to Flatiron, and then now I work at a company called Data Society. And it's a kind of small, like 50 people startup in DC. So yeah. And actually DJ and I have mutual friends. And so we've talked a couple of times before this, and it was coincidental that we ended up on the same team. So that's really exciting. And okay, I will popcorn to, well, I mentioned DJ, so I'll popcorn to DJ.
Cool, thank you. I'm going to plug Lauren real quick, because if y'all don't know about her bassoon quartet, the Breaking Winds, check them out. They're amazing. Videos are awesome. So yeah, I'm DJ. I am in Los Angeles. I grew up around the Dallas area and then also studied music in college. I went to Northwestern in Chicago. So I kind of consider Chicago kind of an adopted hometown because I lived there after school as well. So yeah, I have been a musician. I play the trombone. I've also been teaching for like the last 10 years or so, between like private instruction, but also being a classroom teacher. And to piggyback a little bit off of my story, I guess in the earlier days of the pandemic, when everything was online, we're trying to figure out what to do with our music students. I kind of stumbled on a platform called EarSketch, which was teaching coding concepts alongside music. And I was like, oh, this is super cool. I want to try this out. I want to use it with my students. And what I found is that I just fell in love with it as well, and found that my curiosity was just really piqued. And I kept going back and back, and just kind of like saw the wide world that is out there, and have been on a learning journey ever since. So I also did the Flatiron School. I just finished a few months ago, and I'm in the career search. So yeah, super excited to be here and working with everybody. Let's jump over to Shelly.
Hi, everyone. Let's see. I'm in Atlanta. I'm from California, though, but moved here 10 years ago temporarily. 11 years ago now. It was supposed to be temporary. And so I keep hoping to move home. I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area, and that's where I lived forever. Let's see. Well, this is going to be my third career, but second career, which was the longest one, was I was a high school chemistry teacher, and loved it. Loved teaching, loved the kids, loved the science, hated every other thing involved in the equation, and kept, thinking, this will be the year, this will be the year. I've like tried to learn everything new and take classes and use things online and all this stuff, but nothing ever really was good enough for me or for my students. And so when COVID hit and we became completely dependent on online tools, I got very, very good, very fast, and realized I could do better, meaning I could make better stuff than the stuff that was out there. And all the insanity around being a K-12 teacher in COVID in Georgia. So I took a leave of absence and found a boot camp at Georgia Tech, and am crazy in love with what I'm doing. And so I'm looking for a job, just like DJ. I graduated, if you want to call it that, in October from my boot camp. So, and I'm working as a TA for my boot camp. It's hilarious. So I'm doing what I just did. Don't feel qualified, but I'm getting there. Let's see, Lindsay, you get to go next.
I'm Lindsay. I'm originally from Missouri. I went to University of Missouri, and I got a history degree because I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I found school really hard. I've kind of figured out some of that recently. Moved out to California 6 years ago after I graduated from university to be with my partner. I now live about an hour east of LA out in the desert in Ontario. Before coding, I was unemployed, and before that, I worked on various like contractor roles because there's not a lot you can do with a history degree if you don't go to law school. And I decided not to go to law school, so I worked on the campfire up in Paradise, California, which was a really cool project to be a part of. The thing that made me switch to coding was I couldn't keep going with that project after the field work was done. I wanted to be a part of the data team, but I needed to know SQL and I needed to know kind of how their database worked, and I didn't. And that kind of like clicked. And about a year later, I kind of really figured out how to get into a boot camp. I'm just recently finishing my boot camp, and yeah, I'm here now. Applied to a couple of jobs, starting that process too. And I will popcorn to Elena.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Alina. I'm from Belarus. I have an engineering background. So I used to be an environmental engineer and like home. When I moved to USA like few years ago, I had to think about like to start new career. I tried different stuff. So, but probably like a year ago, I tried programming. I took few online classes, and then I was introduced to Code Dream School, and I fell in love with it. So we learned like JavaScript, React, CSS, HTML. So I'm working on my portfolio now. I finished few small projects, and looking forward to gain more experience and like, to feel confident to start job searching. Yeah, thanks. Eddie, go ahead.
Hey there. A little bit frazzled due to my computers having fun with me tonight. But yeah, my name is Eddie. I'm one of the mentors this cohort. This is actually my first time being a mentor, so I'm learning as much as you all are. But yeah, happy to be here. I'm out in the Washington, D.C. area. And yeah, I've been in tech for a while, done a lot of different things, kind of started out as a full stack developer. And more recently, I'd say the last 8 years, I've been like a front end engineer and done some engineering management stuff. So yeah, that's about me. We'll hand over to Rudy.
Hey everybody, excited to be here. Now, can you just note if you can hear me? These AirPods are being something's not awesome. Okay, let's see. So, okay, my name is Rudy. My last name is usually unpronounceable, so it's Pshenichnik. Remember, Andrew was very awesome about trying to learn how to write the little squiggly lines about the S and C. I live in San Jose, California. And let's see, the journey. So when I moved to Bay Area from Yugoslavia/Serbia, which was about, 2000, I picked my first job as a QA. And at that time, I was experimenting how I can make my little creations in Photoshop move. You know, the Ajax was a big thing back then and all that, which, by the way, I love the visual stuff. I have lots of drawings, 3D stuff, music, clueless. So if I ever do a visual project, I'll have you people add music in it. And then I think my manager at the time was like, oh, wait, looks like you can code. Why don't you go do the projects? And ever since then, I kept learning on the job. So I've been with several companies. I personally prefer things that are more like interactive, like so if it's a web or native, you know, I can make a change, I can see how it works, I can make a change, I can see how it works. That's awesome. It's like stuff like databases, like all the like clusters, nodes, whatever, not as exciting. I just do it as much as I needed to make it work. And it's more and more automated these days. And then I'm kind of somewhat of a junior figuring out myself as well, because ever since COVID hit and the whole work from home thing happened, I realized I was much more happier. I was much more able to manage my energy, passion. I was like, wait, my whole life people saying this was a bad thing. Why is this okay? So I currently work at Apple in a team that's like very, let's call it extroverted. So it was just like unimaginable. They're not in the office 24/7. Like if you're not there, you're not doing anything. So it was just like this eye opener for me. So now I'm trying to figure out, well, where do I want to go from here and all that. And when I found out about this program, like, I've been struggling a lot through my whole journey, because when you're living on a job, right, you're never going to know everything. You always think you're going to reach a point where you're going to know how things work. No, you got to ask people, you're going to figure shit out. And that's great. And I figure, well, maybe I can save people some stress and stuff like that. Because now I have experience in this. Primarily, as long as you believe you can do it, that's it. Like, you can do it. So just for you to, as you go through this project, you get to believe that. It took me a decade to get there myself. So, okay, so that's my intro.
I'll just quickly say, you all know me, I'm Andrew, I'm in Portland, Oregon, and how I got into tech. So I've been doing this for a long time, 23, or I guess this is now 24 years that I've been in tech, but I actually had a short career before I got into tech as well. So I spent about 7 years in higher ed administration. So I have a master's degree of education. My undergrad I have a French degree as an undergrad, so nothing tech related. While I was in school, they invented the web. So then I started playing around with it as a hobby, and a couple years later decided to become a web developer professionally. I just started doing websites for friends and things. And at the end of that first year, got my first salary job, and I've been doing so ever since, including most of the last 10 years doing engineering management. So at one point I worked with Rudy at Disney, and then I tried to get away from him. I left, I went to Apple, and he followed me to Apple. And I'm hoping at some point he follows me to Zapier, where I'm an engineering manager now. But anyway, I'm going to drop and let you all get on with your business. But I just wanted to say hi and welcome you, and just say how excited I am for the next 8 weeks. You're going to have a great experience. It's a stellar group of mentors you're working with. If anything comes up, if you have questions or concerns or anything, please hit me up on Slack, and let's definitely connect on LinkedIn as well. So I can help you out over there. But have fun, have a great time, and I'll talk to you later. See ya.
Yeah. Bye.
Okay, so before, I just thought I'd give a quick recap of the orientation meeting so that then we can jump in. Eddie has a learning module for everybody. But basically for these weekly syncs, we'll be covering 3 things each week. It alternates between demos, learning module, and issues, and then demos, retro issues. And before we get started, does anyone have any questions? You guys are very on top of everything, but just making sure.
In general, about everything?
Yeah, anything about what we're about to do.
I was wondering about our pair sessions. I'm sure you'll talk about this, but as far as setting up Zooms and stuff for that, we're not using this space, I imagine, right? We need to have our own meeting set up. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, I would say Zooms you can just, luckily if there's only 2 of you, then you can have unlimited time and for your non-paid account. So you can do that, or Google Meet if people have Gmails. And then also, last time someone was starting to use, I think it's called something Around. Maybe it's just called Around. It's another video conferencing thing that is kind of cool and has, I don't know, your head's in circle. It takes up less space on your computer. So there's a couple different things, but yeah, usually people just set that up once we do the issues today. So actually, let me just share my screen really quickly. Am I allowed to? Yes, I am. Okay. So after this, at the end of this, when we go through issues, in case anyone doesn't know where the pinned threads are up here, we'll start pinning some threads, including one for pair 1, which this week is DJ and Lindsay, and then another one for Elena and Shelly. So basically, once we're done today talking about going through the issues, you guys can on your own start talking in that thread about either research you do or setting up a time to meet, or sharing the Zoom link there. So as much as you can, keep your conversation in that thread. Also, because we can jump in if you come up with some kind of problem. I almost said issue, but there's too many issues. GitHub issue, this issue. Anyway, so I'll pin that at the end so everyone will see that, but you can find those there. And also, in case you haven't seen this before, there's also a conferencing thing in Slack where you can This one is just voice. If you use Discord, it's like a room where people can hop in and out of, but you can share your screens and everything and just not have your video. So that's another option as well if you don't want to have your video on the whole time. Does everyone know how to interact with threads? If no, just let. Okay, well, yeah, I'll set that up at the end, but I just want to make sure everyone felt comfortable with that. And otherwise, I think we're ready to just do the learning module.
Sorry. Awesome. So yeah, I guess just to help me level set, who here has used Git version control on a project before? Raise your hand. All right. And cool. So yeah, you don't have to do anything super elaborate with Git in this project. So I'll just be kind of going over some basic overviews and commands that you'll be wanting to use. So let's see here. Share screen. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. I have never shared my screen on this one before. So
I can share my screen if you want, and then you can tell me when to turn pages.
Yeah, let's do that. That sounds good. Because if not, I'm going to end up having to restart and I'm the one recording. So,
okay, give me just 1 second.
I should do the same thing on my Mac too, then, because I haven't shared my screen either here.
Yeah.
First time
Always a tricky one. Exactly.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. So yeah, so this is kind of an overview of the things we'll be talking about today. You've got creating and switching branches. You have staging changes, which really just says, of the, items that I have worked on, these are the ones I actually want to move into version control. You might have, 5 files you've worked on, but you may only want to actually take, say, 3 of those files and put them into version control because you may still be working on something in the other 2. Saving changes in history, right? So that's saying, hey, great, I want to actually take these things that I've staged and move them into the history. Sending changes to GitHub, right? So the idea of Git is that you have a essentially every person's computer is, has all the same history, and it can communicate that history between everyone's computers. So you don't have to use like a central place, but everyone's lives are easier if we do use a central place. So because of that, we use GitHub as our kind of central repository, and everyone pulls code down from GitHub and pushes code back to GitHub. So GitHub is kind of the, source of truth, if you will, for your code. And of course, you all have already pushed to GitHub in order to do the contribution.md file. So, none of this should be crazy, life-changing stuff. And then getting the latest changes from GitHub, right? So you've got git push, that's pushing to that central source of truth, and then git pull, that's saying, I want to grab any changes that have happened that other people have pushed to GitHub that I myself don't have. And finally, getting your changes into main. So that first bullet there, where it's creating and switching branches, right? That is the idea that you might have different experiments that you might want to go down, right? So you create a branch. Eventually, you want to take that branch of thought and bring it back into main, which is the source of truth for all source of truths. Typically, you think of main as something that is being able to be pushed to production, and so at any point, right? Different companies will actually have continuous integration, which means literally whenever something goes into main, it immediately goes out to the website. Other companies might have, different things to safeguard and verify changes once it reaches main before it goes out. But that's the idea there. And so that final thing, getting your changes into main, we use pull requests to kind of verify code, since it could go to production and you want to make sure it's good quality code going in there. So we can go ahead and go on to the next slide. Let's see here, all the way till we see pull request. I'm not sure if we actually have to click the, okay, there we go. So yeah, so here's kind of 5 key things. You've got a repository that can essentially is a folder of files, right? It's a collection of files that you have chosen that this collection of files is now going to be part of a Git version control. You know, collection of files on a computer is a folder. So you choose a folder that's typically going to be known as the root folder, or, you know, the source folder. It's the top level, and you say everything inside of this folder, whether it's files or more folders, is all going to be part of this one Git repo. A remote, that is how I talked about that every person's computer can technically communicate with each other. So everything is just a remote. Any other version of this Git repo is sitting somewhere and it's a remote. But because not all of our computers are online at the same time, we use GitHub as a, you know, common remote. Obviously GitLab and different things like that are also remotes that work the same way. A branch, that is a working copy of the repo. For anyone, and I don't know why this computer literally keeps restarting. Let me just like unplug it, because it's, I don't know, like going crazy. All right. So a branch, you know, if anyone is into, you know, any of the comic book movies that have been coming out in the latest years, right? You have this idea of parallel universes, right? Like these different things happen off over here. And then eventually they all collide. And so that's really what this idea is, right? You have your main branch, and that is the code that is known to be good. It's known to be working. It can go to production at any point. When you say, I have some code I want to write, you don't know where that code's going to take you, right? You have an idea of what you want it to be, but it could break things. You could end up developing some crazy in-depth feature and you realize you don't want to ship that whole thing. You just want to ship a piece of that thing. And so you create a new branch. That branch is going to be based on the main branch. So, you know, you have your main branch and you say, great, I want to create a new branch that is, you know, named after this feature I'm working on, and it's going to come from the main branch. And now any changes I make are isolated. And if I need to, I can literally just delete this branch and go back to main, and it's as if that never existed. That's the beauty of Git is, right, when you're getting into programming, when you're working on a new team, you can sometimes be concerned you're going to mess up the project, right? You're going to do something disastrous. And the beauty of Git is nothing you do in Git, you know, really, you know, with weird, super exceptional side cases, like is going to have any permanent lasting damage. Like ultimately you can go back in the history of our branch, you can completely delete branches, you can remake branches. It's all very flexible. So Git is, think of Git as your peace of mind. Then you have commits, right? A commit is just saying, here's a set of changes to files, and I want to, you know, you're going to typically give a message to explain what those changes are trying to accomplish. So you'll typically want each commit to kind of be a single thought, right? Or a single piece of a feature. Sometimes you'll do a bunch of stuff and you'll realize I'm terrified that I'm going to break something and it's not working yet. And you'll do like, you'll create a commit and just mention the commit, like, hey, this commit, you like the code is actually broken in this commit, but like, this is like a milestone I want to check in. That way you can always revert those changes or revert back to those changes if you need to. And the head of a branch refers to the last commit. So if you say, hey, are you on the head of this branch? That says, are you using the last commit that has been added to this branch? And they basically just stack on top of each other. And so are you at the top? I'm at the top. And you can kind of look at the commit message. If you're trying to figure out if you're both working on the same code base as someone else, like, okay, does your commit message say this? Yes, it does. Okay. If they both have the same commit message, then you're probably at the same part. If someone doesn't have that, then they would want to make sure and pull, like we were talking about, from GitHub. Finally, pull request. This documents how and why changes should be merged into main. So, you may go through and make a bunch of changes in a branch, and that may be, a bunch of different changes. Eventually, you're going to say, I've now made these changes to the point that I'm happy for this branch as a whole in the latest commit, the way everything is designed, to be merged back into main to be able to go to production. So, basically what GitHub does is the pull request gives you a visual way to be able to look at all the changes that have happened in every commit in this branch, and to see what changes are ultimately going to be happening to main. The interesting thing is, if you make a change in one commit and then you redo those changes in a second commit, when you look at that final PR, you won't see necessarily all the changes you've made. You'll just see the final changes you've made and how those are affecting main. That sounded a little confusing. Hopefully it made sense. All right, we can go to the next slide. So this kind of is just a visual representation of what I talked about. You've got, your initial commit on one branch where a button is added, and that could be your main branch. So then your second branch down here is, it has the initial commit, it has the add button commit, but then you've now updated text and added styles and added tests and, merged a branch. If you go ahead and tap one forward, or I guess let's tap forward until merge branch appears in the far right. There we go. All right, yeah. So I actually described that a little bit confusingly. So let's revisit. So the top is showing you the flow of the branch. So you have your add button, you branch it to create new styles and tests, and you merge those back in. Someone else might have created a branch to update text and merge that back in. So you see that main flow in orange, your branch is in the blue. Ultimately, this is a PR. And so when you click yes to this PR, it's going to take that add styles and add tests, and it's going to merge it right into the line. And that becomes your new, so that bottom line there, that is your new main after you've gone through that actual PR. So it really just merges those histories together and puts them together. So if we skip to the next screen, we're going to talk about the commands real quick. Git checkout. Again, you don't need to memorize this, so we'll probably go through this relatively quickly, and then just if you have questions, you can ask them. But when you look at this stuff, you're going to think you need to memorize it. No one, almost no one in programming really memorizes it unless it's just something that they do innately. I use visual tools for Git, so I don't have any of this stuff memorized, but I pull up, Google when I need to do something in the command line and do that. So during this course, if it's easier for you to use visual tools, feel free. If you just want to, use these slides to be able to type in little, the codes, and it pretty much covers everything you need, that's fine as well. Definitely memorization is not a part of using Git. It can get complicated. So yeah, so Git checkout, that is to switch to an existing branch or to create a new one. So, if you know a branch exists that someone else created it and you want to be able to just switch from the branch you're on to one called cool feature, you just say git checkout cool feature. If you are the one creating a new feature, then you just say git checkout B and then the name of the feature, in this case, new feature. Awesome. We can skip to the next slide. Git add, this is that idea of staging changes, right? You may make a change in 5 files and you want to add 1 file, or you want to add 3 files. If you know you want to add all the files, there is a shortcut there, as you can see on the screen. So to add a single file, you can just say git add, and then you put in the file name that you want to add. If you just know you have 2 files, you can do that. There's some shortcuts to be able to add like just a couple of files. And then, if you want to stage all the files, you can say git add -A. And that will just say, great, which files have changed, and add all of them to be staged. That's the nice shortcut if you just know everything you've done you want to add. And we can go to the next slide. Git commit, this is going to be where you say, great, take the things that I've staged and put them into the history of the repo. So, one common thing here is forgetting to do the git add, and then you do git commit, and it's like complaining at you, and you're like, what's going on? There are no files. And you're like, I totally made changes to files. So that's a common kind of catch here. So, just making sure you've added any files you want before you do the git commit is a good verification step. You can, typically people will add the message in that command line statement. If not, it'll like open an editor to write a message, which can be confusing in itself. So if you just have a short snippet of text, always good to just do this second git commit -M, where it says update heading text in quotes. Whatever is in the quotes after the M, that's going to just be put as the message for that commit. And finally, the -AM, it stages tracked files and accepts an inline message. So basically what that says is if you don't want to do the git add and the git commit as separate things, and you just know, hey, I want to basically grab all of the, basically it's combining that git add -A and then the git commit -M all together into one thing. For me, that's a little bit scary, but I mean, if you've only touched 2 or 3 files, like totally feel free to do it. I tend to avoid it just because of my particular, neuroses or whatnot. But feel free to go to the next slide. And git push, right? So this is saying I've made changes in a branch, right? I've committed all those changes I want to send to that branch. And then once that's done, you can push your branch up into GitHub or whatever your remote is. That's also a common thing. If you, at some point, if someone's like, hey, I don't see like the changes that you're talking about and you forgot to git push, no worries. That happens all the time in the programming world. Like so many times a teammate has been like, hey, I don't see those changes. Or like, I'm like, I don't see the changes you're talking about. And someone just forgot to git push. That's totally normal. If you, are pushing something that already exists, you can just say git push. But if you're actually, doing a branch for the first time, so say you just created the branch, you do a couple commits, and then you're pushing it up, you do need to do this first one here that says git push -U. And then origin is pretty much the default name for a remote. So just get very comfortable with that. Origin is just kind of the central place. Unless you have multiple places that you push code, it's pretty much always going to be named origin. So very rare that you're going to deal with something named differently than that. And then cool-feature is the name of your branch. So that basically just says, great, take cool feature on my computer, and I want to actually create that as a branch up on the origin remote. Because it doesn't exist yet. Once you do that one time, then you should just be able to git push, and it'll compare your cool feature with the cool feature on origin and just say, yep, this is the same branch. Let's push the changes up there. Next slide.
One really quick note. It's important you do the one problem that happened last time is if you, oh no. Well, anyway, if you put git origin and then you put main. So on your computer, it would be like the local branch, but then you'd be pushing to main in the repo. So just make sure when you're naming that you name it correctly.
That's a really good catch. Yes. And then git pull, that is, grabbing the changes that your colleagues have made and pushed to GitHub down to your machine, right? That's typically something you want to do somewhat often. You don't want to make all of your changes and have none of the changes they've made, and then try to deal with the chaos that ensues. So I'd say whenever you're starting work for the day on your project, I would, pull down any changes. That's just a good habit to do overall. Whenever you start working on a project, sit down, pull anything down, work on your stuff, and then push it up at the end of the day if you have, changes that you've made commits to. So yeah. Next one here is showing visually how to create a pull request. So if you go to GitHub and you click on the pull request tab, you click that button, new pull request, and then it will, let's see here. Yeah, that's the only screenshot. It'll ask you for the source and the destination branch. The source branch should be the one that you pushed. The destination should be main. And so, yeah, that's fairly easy. But if you all have any questions or concerns when you run into needing to open up a pull request, definitely feel free to reach out on Slack. We can help with that. And then next slide, merge conflicts. They can be scary, but it's going to be okay because the number one rule of Git is pretty much anything can be redone. But the idea of a merge conflict is, one person goes and makes a bunch of changes. Another person goes and makes a bunch of other changes in different branches, right? You're working in pairs. So one pair works on, some stuff, one pair works on the other stuff. And then you merge all of that into main, and, you may have changed the same line, and it may be you want both those things to happen at the same time, but computers can only know what we tell them. So they'll be like, hey, these things don't really line up easily. Which of these changes do you want? And so sometimes you say, oh, I just want to accept this change or that change, or maybe you want to accept both of the changes. Hopefully you don't run into that too much during this, but always feel free to reach out and ask questions. Merge conflicts happen. And, even after working in the industry, a decade or two, you still run into really weird merge conflicts and in a normal system, and reach out to someone. You're like, I don't know what to do here. What do you think? So yeah, the next slide is some resources that you all can check out. So we'll make sure that this slide is available in the Slack channel if it's not already. And so I'll make sure and post that. And then, yeah, you all can use any of these links. And obviously, each of you have different experience with Git. So feel free to ask each other, as well as, all the mentors have different experiences with Git. So always feel free to just raise a question, raise a hand and ask a question. Yeah, Rudy?
Just something to point out, if you kind of like what Eddie mentioned, if you try Git with a visual tool, it will give you much better overview of what's happening. But definitely give a command line just 1 or 2 tries to get more feel actually what's happening behind the scenes. And if you haven't used Git much, it's kind of like walking, telling somebody put a 1 foot here, other foot here. It sounds complicated, but after you do it a few times, it will just kind of become like a second nature. So just kind of that word of encouragement there, because all you need to know is to know how to push stuff and get stuff in the beginning. Anyway, yeah.
No, that's excellent. It definitely sounds a lot more scary and intimidating than it is when you're doing it, whether it's just copying and pasting some commands because, you've got cheat sheets. That's easy enough. And then eventually, yeah, using visuals, tools, if those are easier for you. both of those routes, like, yeah, ask questions and it'll get like tying your shoes. Like, it's really weird, like, and hard to explain to a kid how to tie their shoes, but now we don't think about it. So I didn't keep an eye on the chat. Are there any questions in chat that didn't get answered in chat before we move on from here? Was there, I know Lindsay just posted something. Just gotcha. Awesome. Well, cool. Next up then, I think handing over to Rudy to talk through the issues for this week.
Rudy, do you need me to share? Or are
Yeah,
you...
let me just see if I can get desktop. Sure. Let me just see if I can get my Mac to ask me to put this in system preferences. At least I'll have it for next meeting. Yeah, restart. Okay. Well, at least, yes, if you could please share those issues on GitHub, but at least for next time, I'll be ready for it. Because now it's in the system preferences for screen recording, before it wasn't. It feels like this is like really matching the real life meeting conditions at work, because always somebody forgets HDMI dongle or something, right? There's like always some little thing to work around. Let's see. And yeah, if you can please click, I think in this case, we're doing 1 and 2. Let's see. And is it possible to make it full screen? I think if you, that I think should help. Perfect. Okay. So these are the 2 things we're looking to do in the next week. And, you know, you can kind of think about it as, you know, you're at work, this is the ticket you get. You know, so a good practice here is as you're looking at this and something is not clear, it's a good time to ask questions or put comments, you know, help narrow down the scope, what's actually being looked for and all that. The one upfront huge disclaimer I have is, remember, we're aiming for you to be doing this, let's say, about 5 hours a week. So, you know, so don't overextend yourself. For example, if this ticket asks about a simple button, don't go too far to make the button pretty, to make it float somewhere. You start doing that, you're going to start having feature creep, which will never, ever, ever end. So, you know, just look to do what's being written here. This one is, I think, to kind of get you more accustomed to how Firebase database work, which also for me, it's the first time I'm exposed to it as well. Like, I've done lots of front end with SQL, a little bit of Postgres, something else I can't remember right now, but I haven't used the Firebase yet. And this will kind of make sure you have the full loop cycle going, that your app talks to the Firebase. And we put some resources here for you. The quick tips, if you expand them, we'll just give you some code that kind of shows you more how it looks like. And yeah, just I think that's a good practice. And let's see, Lauren, you can let me know what you recommend, but either here or in Slack, just as you're figuring the stuff out, and then I can, you know, put this locally, see what's happening and all that, and work with you on it. So I don't want to be reading off the screen. Let me know if everything here kind of sort of makes sense. If not, we can just jump to the next one.
Yeah, so whichever pair wants to do this, it might be, if you're interested in learning more, everyone will get to touch Firebase, but if anyone is like feeling adventurous and wants to start out that way. Let me get to the next one.
Thank you. Now, this is funny because something that confused me. Supposed to this ticket said this is 1 of 2 stories, and I read that as a programmer, and I'm like, wait, where is 2 out of 2? Like, oh, you mean this is okay? Now I get it now. Similar thing like the last one, especially because this, oh, it's written there in the notes too. Good. Same thing. Keep the scope in mind, right? We're looking for. Oh man, it's too bad that this is the text is being cut off that way. I should probably go and edit and clean it up. But here, this is more of a front end thing to be doing here, and. Let me see if I can just open it here on my screen. You'll be able to read this ticket, but there was something I wanted to mention. And let me just try to find where it was. No, here it's in the notes as well that be careful about adding the citizens framework. You'll have time to get fancy later. Okay. Yeah, my approach is kind of like look at the tickets. If you have any questions, I'm asynchronously there in Slack to help you figure out. And Lauren, let me know if you think if I should be covering something else, because I realize it's the first time I'm actually like for my few decades in career, I usually am there to get the tickets. I realize the first time I'm actually presenting the ticket, so I'll be learning myself as well how to be doing that well.
No, that's great. I think the biggest difference, so this one is adding some routes, like but basically both of the tickets this week are preparing for future more advanced tickets. So if they seem kind of simple, they kind of like this one is kind of straightforward compared to some other ones coming up, but it's more about try to resist going ahead, because it's really, we want to get the flow going of pairs and pull requests in the review cycle. So yeah, it's more about getting familiar with that than about doing tons of coding. And trust me, there will be more advanced things later. But with that being said, you can read that when you're doing your pull requests, there is a default description, which is really nice. Let me see if I can. Oh, okay, sure. Okay, we don't have anything. Let me try this. Okay, so when you create a pull request, you can see a write and a preview, and the write, it's in Markdown. So they have added a default template, which will make it easier so that you can basically keep track of what you're supposed to include. But you want to include a description of what you did so that the pair that isn't working on it has more context for what you did. You can actually tag an issue and it can link to it. And then you want to list your acceptance criteria. So just make sure you read through. These are the 3 main points that you need to meet for it to be merged into main. And that's on every ticket. So just list that so that the other pair knows. There's a nice visual of what kind of thing we're working on. It will usually be a new feature, but nice way to quickly tell people what to look for. And then finally, down here, I don't know if these updates before and after will be very useful in the beginning, because they're often for, well, maybe they will actually. It's for UI changes. So you can show like what the app looked like before and then what it should look like. And then finally, if you can list detailed steps of how the pair should test it, that's ideal, so that it'll help move your PR along faster. Something that's really cool is that Eddie mentioned that there's CI/CD integration sometimes for in companies, and they did that for this project. So once everything that's in main is already, actually I think it's here, is already live. And so as soon as someone does push to main, it'll show up on this link. And not only that, but when you have a pull request, as soon as you make a pull request, it will generate a preview link. So you can actually see and kind of test out the work you did before it goes to this live like production link. You'll have like a testing link that the pair can test as well. But generally when you're reviewing, it's good to pull it down and test the code, like look at the code too. Anyway, sorry, I talked a lot. Are there any questions? Or did you want to say something else?
Well, yeah, I do. But before that, real quick question. When you said able to show what the app looked like before and after, does this mean GitHub actually supports images?
Yeah, yep.
Old this time, and I never knew that, because of course everybody's old school, Brian. So does it link directly in GitHub, or do you have to use like an image hosting service?
I usually just take a screenshot and drag it directly in there.
Okay, this is going to change my work life so much. Like we're using Jira and Radar and a bunch of other ticket tracking software, so we don't do much in Git, but we're trying to move to Git issues. And wow, thank you. I'm looking forward to try it myself, because we're looking at our next project. See, I'm learning stuff too. The 2 things I wanted to mention is, while these tickets look deceptively simple, they're helping you go from end to end of the whole flow of submitting a change, or doing a push request, and then finally seeing what the app looks like, which at least in my experience, there's always like some snags in the beginning, and it's okay to use up time for that. You're figuring out how the whole flow works. I mean, for me, it was often, why is GitHub doing this? Oh, wait, now I get it. And then when you do the later tickets, you'll already have all this nailed down. And Lauren, do you think I should cover real quick what the routes are, or not worry about it for now? I can also talk about it in Slack, or I'm not sure. Would you be curious what routes are?
I think maybe just because of the time, we should, because I think it actually would be helpful to have people create the branch and make sure the partner can get it, just because that might be the newest part. But yeah, and then if people research and have questions, maybe they can tag in the, is that okay?
Yeah, and it's I love working asynchronously too. So ping us in Slack. We can set up extra meetings. It's kind of how it's gonna work like this in real life, anyways. Like you'll be going through a thing, and you might go, "Well, what is a route?" So you might Google. They might work for you. You might have questions. We're here, like as much as we can be.
Okay, great. So with all of that being said, let me look at the groups again. So these were generated randomly, but DJ and Lindsay, and then Elena and Shelly, does anyone have any preferences about which tickets they want? Does anyone like, I really want to start off with Firebase, or I love React Router, let's go?
I'd be down to jump into Firebase.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Studying into that.
Elena, you good with React Router for our first leap?
Yeah,
Okay.
I already done this, so it would be good to repeat.
Yeah, my React is rusty.
I'm supposed to be assigning this to you guys, but I assigned it to myself, but it's fine. There we go. And then I can stop sharing, and maybe what would be great right now is if someone either from each team, if you could share your screen and create the branch, just so that we can make sure we have that set up for everybody. So does anyone feel willing to share their screen?
I can do that.
Okay, great.
Let's see.
I'm happy reaction is you're asking us to do homework on screen live. What is this, an interview?
Oh, that's fine. That means people are helping you do your homework.
Exactly. Perfect. You have the right way of thinking about this. You should see my typing when somebody's watching my screen. Like I make typos. I no longer know how to name things. Yeah, it's a whole skill on its own.
It's okay. I can't type when no one's watching.
Consistent.
Hey, Lauren, it won't let me share.
Sorry, because your guys are watching me do my figure out assigning.
Okay, where did it go? Oh, there it is. Okay. So sharing the right screen? You see my GitHub?
Yep.
Oh, okay. There's no cute green line around it. I was lost. Okay. Or can you see everything? Okay, so I have not created a branch in a million years, or at least like 3 months. And I always used to do it from the command line.
Yeah, so we could do that. If you maybe drag your project into.
Is it showing up on?
Right now we're just seeing the GitHub.
Yeah, give me a sec. Come on, buddy.
By the way, I have no idea how to create a branch in GitHub. I just know how to do it from command line too. So
can you do it in GitHub, or?
I don't know. Can we, Lauren?
Okay, Zoom's just being annoying.
Sure, my company uses Bitbucket mostly, so I've like GitHub specific things
Let's just move everything around.
trusting.
I have.
I had no idea there was a GitHub competitor that companies are using.
Where is it? There we go. Okay.
Yeah, it's the Atlassian one.
So where did I even put it? Don't have a clue. Where did I put it? It's Sunday night. Sunday day for some of you guys, but nighttime for some of us. Let me see. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Sucker. Yeah. Okay, so check out B, and then call it something? Am I on the right track?
Yeah, and then so I think what they said in orientation is maybe initials and then a very brief description of your, like, overview of your ticket.
And then it's like a slash, or it doesn't matter, dash, whatever. Okay.
Typically you'll want a dash, yeah.
Yeah, like that. Okay. What do we want to call it, Alina? Should we just?
And you need to include my initials, AM.
Oh, put both of them. Okay, right.
Yeah, like, yeah, dash and how would you call it?
We want to be specific. We don't want to just call it issue 2, right?
Or maybe routes, at least routes. I don't know.
It's like a React route setup.
Yeah.
Yeah, React routes.
Setup. Okay. I like it.
Okay, great. And then actually try git push.
Just get push right here.
I love, okay, I always do this because I'm lazy. So see how it prompts you
Right.
with-
Oh yeah, I did exactly the same thing. I remember now doing this a lot.
Oh, that's a great tip. I keep typing that like a wow. Thanks, Lauren.
Okay, great. So this created the copy and now Alina should be able to access this. So actually, Alina, are you comfortable sharing your screen really quickly? Just to make sure you're back.
Yeah.
Or can you check?
Yeah.
access?
There.
So just git pull, right? So I suppose we'll git pull, right?
Yeah, it looks like that it hasn't associated the two. So if you grab that, or okay, so if you're not actually trying to pull the content in, you just want the branches. There's actually something we didn't include, which is git fetch.
Git fetch.
Yep. There we go. And then if you type in, or if you look at your branch options, you should be able to see origin. Huh.
Oh, it's from different.
It might be, isn't it get branch remote or something in order to see ones that haven't been brought down yet?
Maybe git remote. Oh.
I suspect now that you did get fetch, even though you can't see it, you could check out her branch knowing the name. So if you have the name.
Oh. Okay, it's like a different GitHub. Okay, maybe I need to close and open. Sorry. Yeah, because I have like a lot of projects open. So I don't know what to do.
So yeah, if you do like git checkout, and then you type in origin /. So what we're doing is we're saying we want to check out a branch, and the branch is located on origin, and then a / after origin, and then the name of the branch that you all have. Oh, sorry, no space in between origin and the /. So it should just be origin and then a / immediately, and then what was it?
SM dash. am dash react dash route dash setup, I think. Should have given it a shorter name.
So it says,
I'm wondering if it's not, if it
that's
switched
weird.
which one it was being, like the main here was tracked to. What's the command to check the origin?
oops. Yeah, it's origin incorrect, right?
It should get fetch. Maybe we have to name get fetch, say get fetch origin.
Nothing.
If origin looks to be something else, right? Shouldn't we say Collab Smart Shop list or something?
Yeah, you're in a different folder besides the TCL 36 Smart Shopping List.
Oh, I didn't see it.
I had that issue too. You had to go into the TCL 36 Smart Shopping List is a different folder. You're on an outer folder of the TCL 36 shopping list. I had that issue too.
So
Oh, you have to go
okay.
down one more.
Yeah. So CD. Yeah. Sorry.
First
Yeah,
group debug.
I do
Nice.
that so often.
Yeah. Yeah, because I like seems like Collab Lab. Oh, the right place. Okay, try. Okay. Now it should work. Yeah. How to switch? Yeah, here. Okay, I can do push code. I forgot how to check in which branch I am. Oh, okay, I'm branch up to date. SM, I am, so it's correct, right?
Awesome.
Yeah, and you can usually, if
Yeah.
you're in the
Thank
directory,
you.
oh,
Ah,
just a
sorry.
quick tip, you can tell in the bottom left of it's
Yeah, I know.
Oh, that you're in the right spot.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Paul. Lindsay, Lindsay or DJ, are you guys comfortable setting up a branch? Do you want to do that? I know we're already over, so if anyone has to drop.
Lindsay, did you already do it or you already there? Cool. She's there.
So this one, you don't want to put main just because it'll connect your local new branch to the main.
Oh, and you're muted, Lindsay, if you're trying to say anything.
Okay, there we go. Okay, and get push origin though, that'll go to the repo, the remote repo that we share. Does it also go to my forked repo? Oh no.
I believe it should just go to the one that are you saying you forked, sorry, you forked the project?
I don't know.
This looks like
I didn't because I only have the you know the one that we share, the Collab Lab one. If I had forked it, I would have had mine.
Yeah, so what you can do is see it give you that prompt, get push set up stream. That's the cheat. Just go ahead and copy that and you should be set.
Yes.
Looking good. And then I think it's just on DJ.
All right, my turn. So I'm in the directory. Do we decide, is it git pull right off the bat? Yeah.
I think get fetch or git pull will work.
Okay. And git checkout. D.
Yay.
It looks right. Yeah.
Sweet.
Okay, cool. So I'm just going to create those threads. I tagged you guys in the issues. So whenever it's time to, you can keep track, like the Trello boards, you can move it into progress, and all right, it is in progress. You can move it into review once you're ready. I'll add threads so you guys can communicate there. And then I guess the next thing will be is to, once you guys put a pull request, just make sure you tag the other team so that they can get to it. And then the mentors will be tagged. And then finally, there's also the office hours, which I believe, Eddie, is it you this week? Okay.
Yep, that's
so
correct.
So yeah, if Eddie will probably, like, well, I guess since this is his Zoom, you can probably use this Zoom, but if there's any questions about office hours this week, it's Eddie. So cool. Any other comments or questions? I feel like I talked a lot.
Did you say you had already set up the
I
thread,
will.
or you're going to?
I will right after, yeah.
Gotcha. Cool.
I won't make you watch me fumble live. Great. Okay. Well, I hope everyone has a great week.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you all so much for your time. Like, I'm so excited. I'm sure everyone else is.
Us too.
We're
And
excited.
yeah, tag us, like definitely ping us if you're having issues for more than like 15 minutes, because, or if you're trying it and you're really stuck, just reach out so you're not wasting your time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Hi, everyone.